Welcome. It's Kevin with S3 Consultants, and today we're going to go over a review of a Part 5 safety policy I developed, and we'll review it against the gap analysis. And this safety policy that I developed is for sole individual organizations. So let's get started. On the very first thing, you have to have your organization safety objectives. And again, you don't have to follow the gap analysis exactly. You're going to write it in a manner that looks professional, smart, and intelligent. So we may be doing some jumping around here, and that's a good thing. Where I put the safety objectives is at the bottom of the second paragraph, and we'll read along here. We'll monitor our safety performance to ensure that our safety objectives of aviation safety controls, safe workplace, and to reduce environmental harm. And the reason I have those as the three safety objectives is the first one is for the FAA regulatory environment, because they want to make sure your safety controls are effective. That's how they view you operating safely. The second one is a safe workplace. That's OSHA. And the third one is reduce environmental harm. That's EPA, DEQ, DEC, depending on how your state does your environmental protection. And then I put in there, they can be found in Appendix A in case you want to expand on them. You know, like safe workplace, they're wearing safety glasses, they're wearing safety shoes, they're wearing hard hats, whatever. And so you put that in there because, as we'll talk about later in safety assurance, you want to have the ability to audit those things or assess those things so that you can show that to the FAA that you have that you're meeting the safety objectives that you put in your safety policy. So like for safety controls, you put in there your flight risk assessment, FRAT, some people call it, your pre-flight risk assessment, so before you go flying. So you would do those, then you would assess, are they doing them? Yes. Are they doing them well? Yes. And then that's probably a policy in your Part 135 or your letter of authorization, or maybe an SOP that you have. And then you can say, yep, they're doing their flight risk assessment, for example. I'm not saying you have to do one. And then you have a clear statement to commit the necessary resources. And so that's in there. I have to look. So right about here, the sole individual is committed to ensuring effective safety policy. And there, the sole individual is committed to providing the necessary finances and resources. So we checked off the second one. So these other ones we don't have to do. That's not required for sole individual organization. So the next one, 5.21A6, an emergency response plan. So that's the bottom paragraph. Sole individual is committed to establishing, maintaining, exercise an emergency response plan per the requirements of 5.27C. And that's the only requirement that they have to do for sole individual organization. The other requirement is a code of ethics, and that's in there. So as you see, we did a code of ethics. This is an example. You can look at it, figure out what you want to say for your company, which fits your company, but this is just an example. So the biggest thing is integrity, reporting all safety concerns, accountability, taking responsibility for safety-related action decisions, transparency, sharing safety-related information with all interfaces, fairness, i.e. just culture. You don't kill the messenger who's reporting a safety issue unless, of course, they've done something that's gross negligence or highly illegal. And professionalism, exercising sound judgment. So that's kind of your code of ethics. The biggest thing I think they want to see is you're not going to shoot the guy who's reporting something, unless, of course, it meets the requirements of gross negligence or illegal. They've done something illegal. So we'll go back. We met the code of ethics requirement, signed by the accountable executive, and so that's down there at the bottom. You want to date it and you want to review it every 12 months or so, because the next one is 5.21D, regularly reviewed by your accountable executive. That's why you have the date, so you can show, and you'll want to keep the previous copy so you can show the FAA, here's the initial one, here's our update, or you look at it and say, hey, it looks good, but you put a new date on it so that it shows that you reviewed it. So now we'll go to safety, accountability, and authority. And so that's up here. I read it off a little bit earlier. The sole individual is committed to ensuring safety controls are in place. And so they're the safety accountable person, and they're going to do everything. And as a force, we'll flip back over here to the gap analysis. And as you can see, that's the only thing with safety accountability. Everything else is lined out. And so we knocked that out and it's in there. Rest of 5.23, don't have to worry about it. But then we'll go back to the required qualities of accountable executive per 5.25. And so is final authority, and that's kind of in these three paragraphs here. Controls of finances, we've already said that sole individual is providing the necessary finances, and that's around here. Controls of human resources, and that's right up here. Ensure that safe flight operations for all passengers, and it says employee will identify all work hazards, all employees. And so remember, sole individual means that there's only one safety sensitive position, i.e. pilot, mechanic, pretty much for a small group or a small company. That's it. It could be dispatched to you or something like that. Flight attendant, probably not. And then retains ultimate authority. So some of this stuff is at the beginning. Sole individual, only safety sensitive position, has final authority and ultimate responsibility for all safe aviation operations and safety performance as per 5.25. That's another way to skin the cat, is you just say that, hey, everything in there, instead of listing them all out if you want to keep it to one page. And then the duties of the accountable executive, which is what we read a little bit. Develop and sign your safety policy, ensure the SMS is properly implemented and performing, which we had in there. Scroll on down to 5.25B4. Regularly review your safety policy, that's why you sign and date it. And regularly review the safety performance of your organization, which you will do on your own. And you'll do it in accordance with 5.75. So as you see, the safety policy for a sole individual is pretty short because it takes out a lot of stuff that is not required. So we'll jump back over to 5.25. As you can see, 5.25C is all lined out. And then 5.27 emergency response is lined out except for C, which we put in the bottom paragraph. And then that's it for safety policy, because the next part is subpart C, which is safety risk management. And that's how you can use the the Part 5 safety management system gap analysis tool to develop your safety policy. And then you'll want to write it in a manner that's easier to read than trying to follow all the steps there, as you see. And you don't want to follow exactly the way the Part 5 is written because it doesn't flow as well. You want to post this where your passengers can see it. So the very first thing is, like, safety is top priority and is paramount to our passenger and cargo operations. So you want to say, hey, passengers, we're going to take care of you first. And then whatever your company name is going to continuously working to implement, maintain, and improve our functional safety management system, improve our positive, proactive culture safety, and the goal of achieving an accident-free aviation operation and workplace for our passengers and employees. Just to touch on, for employees, it's if you have more than one safety sensitive position, pilot, mechanic, dispatch, then you got to do the full up safety policy. If it's one stop shopping, you're the pilot, mechanic, dispatcher, everything, even though you may have a front desk person, a baggage handler, something like that, you're still sole implementation because there's only one safety sensitive position. But that's all we have for today. It's Kevin with S3 Consultants.